View states allow developers to create different page layouts in the same application or different layouts within custom components. In this video, you will learn how to create states and how to build them using Flash Builder's design mode and source mode. You will also learn how to control the display of the states through event handlers. HTML pages often present a very disjointed user experience because pages need to refresh as new links and content are requested. This mobile device store provides a very different experience. Users are smoothly presented with content without a page refresh and maintain a dialogue with the application through interactive elements like this search interface. It gives them immediate feedback and access to more information. The application is organized into discrete sections or states. For instance, when I mouse over a phone, I access a new state of the component that displays these additional buttons. And when I click on a phone, I access a new state of the application that gives me details about the phone. In this video, you will learn how to create view states. You will learn how to animate between the states in later videos. Each distinct layout in an application is called a state. User and system events can be used to change application states. Between application states, components can be added, modified, or removed. This is the employee portal application with the completed code that I will show you in this video. I have created two distinct states of the application. This login state displays a form to authenticate users. When I click on the Submit button, this takes me to the main state of the application. Note that the application is made up of images and panels. When I click on the Log Out button, I return to the login state. View states can be created and managed visually with Flash Builder's design mode or programmatically in MXML using source mode. In this video, I will show you how to create states in both ways, starting with visually in design mode. This is the starter file for the employee portal application. I'm switching to design mode. Notice the states view and that the default application display contains the main application elements. If you do not have the states view open, you can access it by selecting Window, Show View, States. I am right-clicking in the states view and selecting New. In the New State dialog, I'm naming the new state Login State and making it a duplicate of the State 1 state. Now I'm clicking OK, and you can see the state listed in the states view. Changes made to components in design mode are reflected in your MXML code, so let's talk about these MXML tags. The states property defines the states in the immediate parent component and wraps all of the defined states in a single block of code. Each state instance defines the name of one state of the application and takes one property, the name of the state. The name property is required and must be unique in the given component. The first state defined in the states property is the default state for the component. I'm switching to source mode in Flash Builder and locating the states tag block that was created by design mode. Here are the two states I just defined, state 1 and the login state. I'm changing the first state's name to portal state. When I switch back to design mode, you can see that the first state in the states view is now named portal state. Currently, the content in each state is exactly the same. I'm selecting the login state in the states view to modify the state. From the components view, I'm dragging the panel container and dropping it in the middle of the design area. I'm centering it above the other components, but I need to be careful that I'm not dragging this new component into one of the other containers. I want it to appear above the others. I'm switching back to source mode to verify that it is not nested within another container. I'm giving the new panel an ID property with a value of login and a title property with the value of login, all uppercase. I'm also changing the value of the width property to 390 and the value of the X property to 24 and the Y property to 95. Within the login panel container, I'm adding a layout property tag block. And within that layout block, I'm adding an instance of the vertical layout class to arrange the layout elements in a vertical sequence. To the vertical layout instance, I'm adding the gap property set to a value of 10. This will add a 10 pixel vertical gap between each element. I'm also adding a padding top, padding bottom, padding left, and padding right property set to 15. I'm saving the file. When I return to design mode, you can see that the panel now has a title of login and the position and width of the container has changed. From the components view, I'm dragging a label control into the login panel. I'm using the properties view to assign the text property a value of username : Now I'm adding a text input control under the label control and using the guidelines to position it. I'm selecting both of them and copying and pasting them. I'm giving the second label control a new text value of password. When I switch to source mode, you can see that the panel container nests the controls that I've just added, and it also has an include in property that has a value of login state. You use the include in property of a component to define the state in which the component exists. If the component exists in more than one state, then you can add each state to the property in a comma delimited list. You could alternatively define the exclude from property of a component, which declares in which state the component does not exist. The include in and exclude from properties of a component are mutually exclusive. You should not use them together. Lastly, if you do not define either of these properties, then the component will exist in all states. With the login state selected, I'm switching back to design mode and then deleting the cafeteria special, monthly events, and search employee directory panels. I'm selecting the portal state, and you can see that all the components that I just deleted still exist in this state. When I switch back to source mode, you can see that the search panel has an include in property that says portal state. This is also true of the cafeteria special and monthly events instances. Still in source mode, I am locating the log out button and adding an exclude from property set to the login state, since the logout button logically does not belong if you are already logged out of the system. I'm switching back to design mode and then double-clicking on the editor tab to maximize the editor window. When I switch between the two states using this drop-down list above the design area, you can see the differences in the display. So far, I have only switched between the two states in Flash Builder's design mode. I will now show you how to do this programmatically. When switching between states, Flex figures out everything that needs to change between the two states. You trigger a state change from an event like a button click or the loading of data. The key to controlling view states is the current state property of a component. As its name implies, this property holds the current view state of the component. In my example, the component is the application, and its current state property is the login state. To switch between states, you set the current state property to another view state name. Within the States view, I am right-clicking on the login state and selecting Edit. Within the Edit State Property window, I'm selecting the Set as Start State checkbox and then clicking OK. You can see the login state now shows the word Start in parentheses. When I switch back to source mode, you can see that the opening application tag now has the current state property set to login state. This will ensure that the login state is displayed by default when the application loads up. I'm locating the login panel container and adding a button control, which I'm giving a label of submit. I'm adding the click event to the control and then setting the current state property to the portal state using single quotes around the name since the double quotes are already being used for the property. I'm also adding a click event to the log out button. The current state property assignment here is login state. When I save the file and run the application, you should see the login state by default. When I click on the submit button, the application switches to the portal state. When I click on the log out button, the application switches back to the login state. Lastly, back in design mode, I want to rearrange the two panels in the login state. I have selected the Employee of the Month panel, and in the Properties view, I'm changing the X property to 434, the Y property to 95, the Width property to 390, and the Height property to 200. This will reposition and resize the panel container. I'm also going to replace its content with a new message. To declare different properties for a component in each state, simply reference the name of the state after the property name. For instance, in this code, to create a new text property value for the label control in the login state, you would type the property name, text, followed by a period, and then followed by the name of the state, which is the login state. This syntax is also true for component events. So here is a click event followed by the portal state. I'm switching back to source mode and locating the Employee of the Month panel. You can see that it has the original X, Y, and Width properties, but now it also has X.LoginState, Width.LoginState, and Height.LoginState properties. Note that the Login panel does not contain any properties that are specific to the login state. This is because the Login panel only exists in the login state as defined by this IncludeIn property. Its properties, therefore, are already specific to that state. When I save the file and run the application, you can see that both states and their components appear as expected. For your next step, work through the exercise titled Creating and Navigating Application States.